Here is the second edition of the etymology of the word red from the ram headbutting symbol map, which originated from Abydos, Egypt in the Naqada 2A period. The old attested red crown shown here from 5600 A, which is a crown with a battle ram horn coming out of the top, symbolic of blood spilled of your enemies when you battle ram the territories around your country if they attack you. And the S3 symbols the red crown of Egypt, originally all of Egypt, but then it became Lower Egypt, and there was a white crown for Upper Egypt. The curl part here is the curl of the ram horn. This became the Phoenician R. These are the Kidion horned Phoenician R's from Cyprus Island, found here. And it has some of the earliest Phoenician R's have legs, which the leg of the ram when he's about to crouched up, when he's about to headbutt. These became the Greek R. We see the head here and the leg, front legs curled up, about to headbutt another ram in a war battle. And the word Eruthros. And over here we see the Attica, Greece red crown row, with the ram leg here curled up, about to headbutt another ram. And this has the head of the ram plus the curled red crown. So it's a double R. So this is Egyptian R, but it's found in Attica, Greece, 2680 A. In about this area. Over here we see Romanian Rusa. And in Turkey, from about 300 years ago, we see Ki Rimizi, which is the name of the worm that makes the red dye, but it has the letter R in it. And we also see in Ukraine, Chirivioni, also is the worm spelling of R, but it has the red R, the ram head R. Chesroni in Poland it's the worm dye name. But then in Yiddish, we see that it's spelled Roit, which is adopted from the German Rat, when Jews lived in Europe prior to the World War II. Denmark, we see a rod 400 years ago, or 400 years before atoms were seen. We see a rod in Norway. Finland has a strange name, Punean. And then the English word comes from rude, the Welsh spelling from 1,000 years before atoms were seen. Reed, reedy, which finally became red in the year, attested in the year 630 years before atoms were seen. Rowd in Ireland. Rau do in Iceland. In Spain we see Roxo, which became Rojo in modern Spanish from about 140 years before atoms were seen, which is just few centuries after the letter J was invented, where the X became the J. Portugal, we see vermelho, which is a red worm dye-based word, but it still has the R. So in other words, they named the dye that comes from the word based on the letter R of the blood that's spilled out of the rams when they battle, which is metaphor for a country that is very powerful and will conquer the enemy. In Ethiopia, we see the word is K, but these are still Egyptian-based characters. This is sort of like the Phi. This came from South Arabia here, but a lot of this still hasn't been worked out, but it comes from the hieroglyphs, which became lunar script, which became this word, Saudi Arabia. We see Ham, Ra, that's the R symbol. So this ram became this symbol in Phoenician, but it eventually became this curl symbol in Arabian, which is, you can sort of see is this symbol here in Hebrew. Or we see Kazakhstan, name for red, Kwizeli. Russian name for red, Krasnija. There's the date of the new edition. There's me. This is the Mongolian word for red, Yulan. I don't know exactly I haven't learned exactly why these are vertical. But Mongolian is I talked to a Mongolian native here in America a week ago, and he told me that they use the Russian script, but they're still connected to the Chinese linguistics. And in China, Hong, Gisi, this word here is word for fire. Ratho in Nepal. Afghanistan, Sorex. Here we see the red ram head. This is letter H, which comes from the 8 finger digits of your 2 hands, which became the Ogdoad. This is letter S, the snake curled up. India, you see a rock, Ta. That's a ram right here. That's his head about to headbutt, and his legs curled up. And in French we see Rouge from plus 855, or 1100 years before atoms were seen. In Catalan area, we see this became the Roigi, 700 years before atoms were seen in this region. Morocco is mostly Arabic right now, so they still use their Ham, Ya, Ra. Some of these words down here are difficult to track down because they're mixed with a lot of tribal South African languages. Over here we see what prompted me to start making this map is the red crown S3 sign found in Lower Egypt on a black rimmed pot from grave 610 Nakeda 2 period, dated to 5600 A, or 5,600 years before atoms were seen. So this makes it the fifth oldest letter dated extant. The curl part of this, which is number 100, which became letter R, is found in Tomb Uj, Abydos tags, That's dated to 5300 A. The Narmer palette also has a red king with a red crown on it, with a battle ram on top. That's dated from Abydos 5100 A. So it'll be 18 hours ago I cross-posted this to the Egyptology Maps sub. And six 3,600 views, 32% upvote rate, 5 shares. And we see some of those things I've corrected here. Right here, there's no Catlin, or R-O-I-J became R-O-I-G because that was a typo. I added the Portuguese vermelho. But from these comments, I posted a new version 51 minutes ago where I changed all of these. I added lots of worms because I didn't know that color red in so many countries was based on the red dye from the worms. And to conclude this video, we'll just focus on this one comment. Most of the comments were suggestive about corrections, but this is a typical someone who believes in Proto-Indo-European theory, or that the letters were invented in Shemland. So this user says, this is all utterly bullshit. So this user says, V4R said that this whole chart is bullshit. And I replied that, well, correctly, this is ram shit, and the bull is actually letter Sampi. But jokes aside, what this user is complaining about is they've been taught since they went to school that all of the etymologies of all these words comes from Pyland, Proto-Indo-European land, which is somewhere around the Caucasus Mountains here. Over here, if you go to the Pyland sub, if you click on Pi Homes, you can look through the top 35 theories of the origin of the proto-languages of all of Europe. Most of this comes down to Blumenbach, who in 160 years before Adams were seen said that Noah's Ark landed on Mount Ararat in the southern Caucasus Mountains, and this is where all words originated because the people here have maximal beauty, and they were the first humans were created. So most of the etymology maps sub believes that all of the words of Europe came from some people who didn't write down, or they were literate people, some that originated from a river in Ukraine or in Anatolia over here. Or some argue that it's over in Russia here. This is all what's called invented or theoretical linguistics, but it's based on incorrect premise that the actual science of linguistics was invented over here in Abydos, Egypt. And secondly, someone like user who said this is all bullshit also believes that letters were invented, the alphabetic letters were invented in Sinai here when Moses crossed the Red Sea. So anyone who's Christian or Jewish believes that alphabetic letters were invented here. And then if you're Arabic, you believe that Allah spoke to Muhammad and invented the alphabet letters, or invented speech somewhere over here in Saudi Arabia or in Iran area. So right now we're in what's called the alchemical state of linguistics, where we believe a lot of nonsense, but correctly. Letters were invented here. This letter R coming out of his horn, coming out of the crown, 6,000 years ago. There was an entire linguistic science developed here. So either this spread outward to Europe this way, or Sesostris, was reported by multiple historians, conquered the world, all of these territories. He invaded India, he left troops over here by the Phasis River, and he conquered all of North Africa up this way. And we know things, for example, that the Queen of Scotland is named after Scotia, who sailed from here over to Scotland, and she's an Egyptian princess. So the main theory is that when Egypt conquered Europe, they made all the colonies learn the new Egyptian script, which is called lunar script, and it's based on 28 approximately hieroglyphic symbols. For example, V1 is the curl sign here. This became letter R, and it's number 100 in Egyptian numerals, but it became Rho in Greek, which is also to this day number 100 in Greek numerals. And that's why we all speak Egyptian hieroglyphs today, or Egypto, or so-called evolved Egyptian. So all these are Egyptian letters. And then when the Egyptian dynasty died in power, the colonies were stuck with this new lunar script, just like the Romans conquered Europe and made them learn Latin. All the major towns had to learn Latin, so people in college were still speaking Latin up until about 200 years ago, but this is because they were conquered by the Romans. Spain conquered South America, which is why everybody speaks Spanish today, replacing Aztec language there. The Egyptians conquered India, replacing the Indus Valley script. And the language of India is based on the 14 vowel sounds of the drum of Vishnu. So this 14 comes from the 14 signs of Osiris, 14 lunar script signs, or body parts of Osiris, whose body parts were scattered around the Nile. And that is about the conclusion of the video. But to summarize,